Good morning, everybody, and happy Easter. Welcome on this Easter Sunday, which is also Cesar Chavez's birthday and the Trans Day of Visibility. So we hold up everybody who is struggling and supporting others and ourselves and living lives of beauty and dignity and protected and allowed to live and flourish as we all should. So we hold up that spirit perfect for this particular Sunday morning. And I want to welcome everybody. I want to welcome our live stream folks. Some of you are sick and at home, and some of you are very far away but part of this community. Can we all just, let's see, Jonathan, which camera is on right now? Ooh, Shulee, which camera is on? Let's all upstairs. Let's all just turn and wave so they can see us in all our bonnets and finery and let you all know that we are with you as you are with us. And we're so excited to be part of this larger community beyond these four walls. Also, I know Asani Sewell. Where are you? Asani is one of our distant members. She lives in Portland, but we have her here today. So please, while you get a chance, go say hi, because it's always great to have our out-of-towners in town. Welcome. Today, our kids are going to go out for an Easter egg hunt at the doxology instead of class. And after service, we won't have our normal social hour because Tenderloin Tessie, as they do every year, is using our space with our blessing and joy to serve a meal to our neighbors. And so we make that, sacrifice of the space we love for a much greater good and joy. And I hope some of you will consider volunteering with them in the past. They do the meal here on Easter, on Christmas Day, and on Thanksgiving Day, and sometimes feed up to 800 people. So it's a big production, and there's entertainment. There's a drag show that is led by a drag star who in the past has been named Vanessa, but it's not me. I wish I had those talents. I do not possess those talents. And there's other services and clothes, so it's really a wonderful thing that we have under our roof. And so you'll go out into your Easter day without a cup of coffee, but we hope you have a blessed afternoon and day. I want to thank everyone who's making today's service possible, Reverend Laura, my colleague, with her chapeau, and Dennis with his chapeau, and Oreo is up here too, joining us for a while, to Reiko and Mark and our choirs, both of them today, and our soloist, Nancy. Yeah, howdy, Mark, good to see you, yeah. And to all of you, to Shulee and Jonathan, who are bringing our live stream home, and Linda, who is our head usher, and everybody who is pitched in RE to make the incredible Easter egg hunt possible, which I know we would all like to be part of. But I will have candy to hand the adults after service. So welcome, everyone, to this hour that's carved out to go deep, to take a breath, to search for and find inspiration, to reground for all this and so much more. Welcome to worship.
Now is the time in our service where we light our chalice. For those of you that are home, if you have a chalice nearby, please feel free to light it with us. Please join me in our chalice lighting words in your order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together.
morning. My name is Linda Enger, and I'm a member of our Board of Trustees. I've been a member of this church for over 50 years, so if you have questions, I should be able to answer them. You are welcome to contact me or any other board member with questions or concerns. We meet in the fireside room on the third Tuesday of the month, and you are welcome to attend the meeting if you're so inclined. If this is your first time joining us in person or watching on live stream, thanks for joining us. If you would like to receive a copy of our weekly newsletter, our weekly email newsletter, which includes a link to the order of service and the Sunday live stream, you can fill out one of the yellow connection forms. Those forms are on the welcome table outside the sanctuary, perhaps in a pew in front of you, and it's available through a link in the order of service or video description of today's service. The order of service lists upcoming events and links to opportunities to connect. Please engage in any of them that are of interest to you. Today I have a word of caution for everybody. Just a reminder, there was another person pretending to be Vanessa, and it wasn't the drag queen, in an email this weekend. So this is a reminder, Vanessa will never ask you to buy gift cards or money orders. You can always phone her if you get an email and you're not sure about its validity. You can call her to check if that email is confusing. So just so you know, all church staff have emails that end with @uusf.org at the end. Any variation, even a slight variation, should arouse suspicion. We love your generosity and your warm-heartedness, but the thing you should do with those feelings is contribute to today's offering, which goes to support the minister's discretionary fund, which gives the ministers the ability to address needs that the email may make you sound are being addressed. If you had your photo taken or submitted a photo for our photo directory, the directories have been received. I will be out in the gallery after the service. Please stop by to pick up a directory if you had your photo taken or submitted one. If you did not do that and would like a copy of a photo directory, we have a soft copy, and give me your name and we can create a copy for you. But those of you who did take pictures, come by and pick up the photo directory. That's all I need to call your attention to today. Let's take a moment to greet one another. If you're joining on live stream, introduce yourself on the chat and share whether you participated in an Easter egg hunt today.
When I am down and oh, my soul is weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. When I am down and oh, my soul is weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up.
We don't know everything for sure in life. There are some mysteries. On his deathbed, Henry David Thoreau, a writer and thinker, was asked what he thought happened after you die, and he said, "I'm taking this one lifetime at a time." But even not knowing, people have different guesses or things that make them wonder or stories they tell. Years ago, a woman named Doris Stickney watched something happen in nature and wondered if death for us could be at all like what happened to the dragonfly. And here's
Down below the surface of a quiet pond lived a little colony of water bugs. They were a happy colony, living far away from the sun, For many months, they were very busy scurrying over the soil, mud on the bottom of the pond. They did notice that every once in a while, one of their colonies seemed to lose interest in going about, clinging to the stem of a pond lily and gradually moving up out of sight, and was seen no more.
Look, the water bugs said to one another. One of our colonies is climbing the lily stalk. Where do you think she's going? Up, up. It slowly went. Even as they watched the water bug disappear from sight, her friends waited and waited, but she didn't return.
That's funny, said one water bug to another. Wasn't she happy here? Asked a second. Where do you suppose she went? Wondered a third.
No one had an answer. They were greatly puzzled. Finally, one of the water bugs, a leader in the colony, gathered her friends together. I have an idea. The next one of us that climbs up the lily stalk must promise to come back and tell us all where he or she went and why. We promise, they said. One spring day, not long after, the very water bug who had suggested the plan found himself climbing up the lily stalk. Up, up, up he went. Before he knew what was happening, he had broke through the surface of the water and fallen onto the broad green lily pad above. When he awoke, he looked about with surprise. He couldn't believe what he saw. A startling change has come to his old body. His movement revealed 4 silver rings and a long tail. Even as he struggled, he felt an impulse to move his wings. The warmth of the sun soon dried the moisture from the new body. He moved his wings again and suddenly found himself up above the water. He had become a dragonfly. Swooping and dipping in great curves, he flew through the air and felt exhilarated in the new atmosphere. By and by, the new dragonfly lighted happily on a lily pad to rest. And then it was that he chanced to look below to the bottom of the pond. Why, he was right above his old friends, the water bugs. There they were, scurrying around, just as they had been during some time before. The dragonfly remembered the promise. The next one of us who climbs up the lily pad will come back and tell where he or she went and why. Without thinking, the dragonfly darted down. Suddenly, he hit the surface of the water and bounced away. Now that he was a dragonfly, he could no longer go into the water. I can't return, he said in dismay. At least I tried, but I can't keep my promise. Even if I could go back, not one of the water bugs would know me in my new body. I guess I'll just have to wait until they become dragonflies too. Then they'll understand what has happened to me and where I went.
And here ends our story about the dragonfly that one person thought might be a story about more than just a dragonfly. In a season where we tell stories about what happens after someone we love dies, we admit the vastness of possibilities and the unknown of what we are required to take one life at a time. And just a reminder, after the doxology, all the children can meet in the foyer to head over for an Easter egg hunt. Blessings in the mystery.
Good morning. 5 years ago, my husband Chris Law and I stood up here during pledge season to tell our story of finding a spiritual home that welcomed his atheism and my Christian upbringing. UUSF is a place where questioning is encouraged, where we can each seek truth and meaning for ourselves, and where our children can explore these questions too. These remain some of the central reasons why we give to support this community. And what I could not know in 2019, could not even imagine, was how central this community would be to me through a global pandemic how creative the staff and volunteers were to extend, strengthen, and deepen our connections. As chair of the Family Ministry Committee from 2021 to 2023, we played with how to engage the community. We hosted the first, and I hope only, virtual waffle breakfast in 2020. And as I participated in the weekly COVID advisory board meetings, I saw the way that the UU principles were held within the space as decisions were made. And I was so grateful when the church was reopened to families and children in fall 2021, knowing the devastating effects of isolation young people and parents were experiencing. In my son's rites of passage class, his big question was, what is love? And Reverend Mary Ganz's answer was poetic and beautiful. But more importantly, my children and my family have seen love manifested in the actions of this community. We have loved each other in moments of joy and in moments of incredible pain and uncertainty. I give, and our family gives, to support a place that can do that can create a loving space in a hurting world. I hope that you will join me in giving to support this community. Pledges received today by midnight will be entered into the drawing for a Tahoe getaway. Jack and Sherry, who are leading this pledge drive, will be at the table after service, or you can give conveniently online by clicking the pledge button. Thank you, and I appreciate the ways in which this community continues to show up for each other.
Happy Easter, everyone. My name is William Klingelhoffer. I'm a 30-year member of this congregation. I was raised Roman Catholic. In 1972, I married Jill Brindell. Jill's family on her father's side is Jewish. Her father, Bernard Brindell, was music director for over 20 years for a large congregation on Chicago's North Side, Temple Sholem. When Jill's mother, June, showed me a printed sermon by Wilmette, Illinois Unitarian Reverend Ed Pera, I decided to attend a service here. I admired the thoughtful people and deep roots that our congregation has with the San Francisco community, so I joined. I was also very happy to discover that when the 1906 earthquake and fire destroyed Jewish Temple Emmanuel, that our congregation invited them to use our sanctuary for services for several months until they could rebuild. Please open your gray hymnals to number 318, We Would Be One. Please just read along. I just want to play a little of it. This music and these words together express my feelings about being a Unitarian Universalist. The words are by California Unitarian Universalist Reverend Samuel Anthony Wright. The music by the great Jan Sibelius. The melody is simple in E-flat major. We would be one as now we join in singing. The wonderful bass part accompanies the melody, moves in contrary motion, and makes a solid foundation for the harmony. This part, the transition, is the pivot point of the piece. what in us is true. It's the transition of a master composer. It's set beautifully by the man who wrote the words, Samuel Anthony Wright, and it's out of the key. It's you go back to E flat, but anyway. So what in us is true points us on our way. With love and justice, strive to make us free and show to us a new community. I invite everyone, the next time we sing it, to sing in full voice. Sibelius you can make a big sound in Sibelius. And pledge with all your hearts to support this congregation.
So please pull out your hymnal one more time and turn to the back in our responsive reading 628. Now, one of the problems with responsive readings is I say it very lively and I hear back from you, wah, 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 wah. Now, one of the problems with that, and one of the jokes about Unitarian Universalists, is they can't sing very well because they're trying to read the words ahead of themselves. So I'm going to give you a moment just to kind of look at the words, get yourself familiar with them. And I would like some little boisterousness around your responses when you read back to me what you're supposed to read, which is in the italics. So I'll give you a minute. I'm timing it. Okay, has everybody read pretty thoroughly? You get the idea? Okay. All right, so let's start this responsive reading. In the tomb of the soul, we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness, fears, regrets, worries. In the tomb of the soul, we take a refuge from the world and its heaviness. I didn't hear heaviness. Heaviness. In the tomb of the soul, we wrap ourselves in the security of darkness. Sometimes it prepares us for experience. Sometimes it insulates us from life. Sometimes this human life gives us time to feel the pain of the world and reach out to heal others. Sometimes it numbs us and locks us up with our own concerns. In this season, where light and dark balance the day, we seek balance for ourselves. Grateful for the darkness that has nourished us, we push away the stone and invite the light to awaken us to the possibilities within us and among us, possibilities for a new life in ourselves and in our world. Thank you. and death. We come to you knowing each of us carry in our hearts those places we have sealed and placed a stone across. We have hardened our hearts against the world, possibly against one another, and maybe against ourselves. Let us lean into those spaces. Help us to shine even the barest glimmer of light to pass through those stones. Help us to find compassion with the person struggling beside us. Guide us in healing ourselves and each other from the hate and pain of this world. Let us slow down and observe the beauty before us and among us. Spirit of love and beauty, we come to you knowing we have places in our heart full of love and beauty, wide open to the world. These are the spaces that reflect the love we have received and have given. These are the spaces that have observed and soaked up the beauty around us. Let us bolster ourselves in this love and beauty to push against those stones that remain sealed. We offer gratitude for the nourishment our souls receive in the healing spaces of our sealed tombs. May we unseal them with the love for ourselves and for each other. May we see the beauty amongst the hurt and pain. May we know we have the power to create the meaning of resurrection in our lives daily. Amen.
And now our morning offering, which will go to the Minister's Discretionary Fund. That's ministers with an S apostrophe, that Reverend Laura and I use to respond to needs that emerge in the community, from household bills to emergency trips home to home health aides and any number of community needs that arise. Thank you for helping us meet them in the past with grace and generosity, and thank you in advance for your generosity today. The morning offering will be given and gratefully received.
My life was a prison.
Oh, many of you know from sitting in the pews on Easter with me that I always feel caught on this Sunday by the fact that in the Unitarian Universalist tradition, we don't generally walk through the other pieces of the story of Holy Week. And without Good Friday in particular, that day which really wasn't good at all, Easter Sunday makes no sense. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, borrowing a phrase from Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Sr., whose pews Bonhoeffer used to sit in that Harlem church when Bonhoeffer wasn't teaching Sunday school there, Clayton Powell used to talk about cheap grace. It's a phrase he meant to capture a church that granted its people forgiving love, the love of God that forgave everything without requirements to confess what they had done wrong and work to repair the harm and commit to the life that it called them to. It's a second chance granted again and again with no invitation to feel the weight of the harm we've done. And so in some ways, the magnitude of the gift of forgiveness or second chances is lost to us, but also what it calls out of us. Bonhoeffer thought the call to discipleship, he called it, not merely spectatorship, but a moral engagement with participating in the redemption of the world. Good, I think, can be the same way. Most things can be. You forget what a gift it is to have in the world, the possibility of goodness all around you, if you don't remember some sense of how awful and despairing it feels in your bones to have its absence. It's why I think those who have fought in wars are often our most committed pacifists, or people at least working for peacemaking and committed to it. And those who forget send us off to sacrifice another generation of children. Good Friday, in the story told during Holy Week, in the Christian tradition, let me remind us, is this. It's of this godly man, Jesus, this man who we are told spoke liberating truths, challenged those in power to be compassionate, invited people to love their neighbor and even their enemies, everyone to be humble and introspective about their own failings, never to throw the first stone or any stone, got angry when the temple places of our lives, anything sacred was diminished or cheapened or turned into a place for profit, and tried to remind folks where real power comes from, the kind we should throw our lives into pursuing, that power that comes from a life that is grounded in the highest virtues of service and courageous witness on behalf of the most vulnerable, drawing a circle of love wider and wider in all the ways it invites us to stretch our spirits to do so. And so much else he talked about. And for his life and this set of crimes he committed, he is convicted, sent to a torturous ending by those in power so that the status quo could be maintained, so no hard work of moral and social change need happen. And on Good Friday, that day that speaks of no good at all, this man and others were nailed to crosses in the Middle Eastern sun after having been beaten and humiliated, and Jesus dies while forgiving those who hurt him with his last breaths. It's not a story for bunnies and bonnets. But Easter makes no sense without it, right at our shoulder. Some years it is particularly hard and strange to recount the story that precedes today's. Some years evil has felt for me a little further away, a little subtler, a little more hidden than it has this year. There have been lots of Good Fridays through time, and this year I feel like has had more than its share. Days when the sky was rent, as it says in this story of Holy Week on Good Friday, they feel like familiar days. There have been plenty of them this year when we could imagine it would feel fitting for the skies to be torn and grow dark because of the news we read and hear again and again. And so we can understand, maybe this year especially, that on Friday and the Saturday to follow in the story, when the sun went into hiding, that the followers of Jesus believed evil had won, that it can feel that way, that people who believed that through his leadership, hope and truth and goodness would triumph were devastated. Another day when there is no ceasefire. Another day when despots continue their egotistical wars and journalists are arrested for telling the truth, and business makes products that disrupt the social fabric and the social emotional growth and well-being of our young people for coin. And nations invest more in armies than in disarming the mutually assured destruction of a planet boiling in its own juices, and spend more on reality TV than on homes for their unhoused neighbors. On these days, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to feel what these people in the story felt. And so this morning, this Easter morning in the story, we come with them to the tomb, to this place that holds the remains of someone and something they loved, to a dream, actually, not just a person in that tomb, but a dream. And in the story, we're supposed to be standing with them on this morning, waiting to pay our respects for a funeral to who and what we loved and believed in and hoped for and now seems impossible. We have lots of tomb places in our lives, some of which were named in the reading and the prayer. And as the prayer reminded us, all sorts of things happened. We can sit at tombs to gather ourselves for what's unimaginable and life beyond them. We can mark experiences that completely orient our whole being so much we're not sure what the next step forward is. We can hide in them because the world seems hard, and it can be, and it is at times. And the truth is that we human beings, we find a way to live through the most devastating life experiences, a lot of us. We are a resilient lot in general. None of us would be here if generation after generation of people hadn't kept going. I know just a couple of the stories from my own ancestors. Perhaps you know some of the ones from your lineage. We go on, we human beings, from the tomb places in our lives, maybe hollow sometimes, but we do, we endure. And that power to want to endure is so strong in us. And Easter is about that in part, but not just about that. Because the story we tell today says, and we tell it annually to immerse ourselves in it, that the tomb, it wasn't about something awful happening and simply moving on, that it was much more extraordinary a message than that, bigger than just that. In the story this morning, that huge boulder, the one that seemed to seal the story's end at death and loss and evil victorious, this Sunday morning, these disciples arrive and it's been rolled away from the tomb. Not raided by gravediggers, not one more bad ending to the story, but the opposite, the unthinkable, the unimaginable, the story says. And take it for literal truth or metaphor or both. They step in and the miraculous has happened. This metaphysical force they come to see that's at the heart of the universe, that is speaking to them of a different, incontrovertible truth that they need to own, that rescues them in this worst moment of their lives. And some of them that day, they meet the man Jesus, risen, though they don't recognize him. They see him and they exchange words, but mostly what we're told is that after this day, they lean into the knowledge that he was with them in some form, that the goodness and the beauty and the truth of him lived on in some form with them. And they had work to do. They had incredibly hard work to figure out how to live in his absence, how to lead without him. But that day told them what would persist and claim the day. Always, it said. And it wasn't evil, but it was hope, and it was possibility, and it was the good against all the odds, it seemed. And it isn't just Christianity that preaches this message. Most religions have some story or stories of the same thing. They have their own that they tell and retell, like Ram and Hanuman killing Ravana and saving Sita, good, victorious over evil, powerful evil, and Moses and the Israelites being aided in their escape and defeat of Pharaoh's armies. Stories again and again in the human larger family of the same message. We humans, we cling to these stories to remind us how resurrectable and miraculous and enduringly good hope will be in this world. And we tell these stories again and again, and we make them part of our sacred scriptures, because we will need those reminders. And because anchoring our lives in these stories, I think, changes how we live. We see, if we live into these stories, we see that in the hardest times, we must believe in but also choose resurrection. We must live it as the men and the women, the people in the Easter story did, the ones who seemingly lost everything precious to them, most precious to them. And choosing resurrection is no cheap grace. It means, among other things, living love as a verb, not a noun. Justice not as some abstract notion, but fleshy and concrete. Hope not as an idea, but a set of strategies with muscle and stubborn persistence and generous funding. Good to remember in the election season. And when we do this, when we choose and anchor in resurrection and its obligations, we become the people who lift cars off of trapped bodies because we cannot stand to see life hurt or lost and surprise ourselves with our own strength. Or like an aunt of mine, by marriage, a doctor, married to a doctor who lost her only child to cancer. And at a time when pain management was not a specialty anyone in her city knew well. And from her inestimable grief and loss, chose to save others the same pain or some of it, and opened the first palliative care center in Mumbai and named it for her daughter. People save beautiful wild places from businesses that would mine or drill there out of this commitment to live resurrection. We participate in practices of restorative justice out of it. We pay a land tax to local native communities for the rematriation of land, and we argue for the honoring of at least one past treaty to begin with out of it. We call a friend who we have let a rift lie too long with and try and fix it. We take care of something we promised to do and redeem a failure. We plant a garden, we clean off some graffiti, we bring a meal. We give up social hour so our neighbors can dine with beauty and grace and warmth and welcome. Last week, maybe a week and a half ago, there was a luncheon for, I think, 20 people to celebrate one of our members' final radiation treatments. Each of the folks at the lunch, and those two who couldn't be there, had driven this member to or from his radiation treatments so he didn't have to go to them alone. In ways huge and intimate, public and quiet, we choose resurrection. We make ourselves Easter people, and this an Easter world. We don't just dream of it. Because Easter isn't a truth for one moment in history at one tomb in one story 2,000 years ago. It's meant to echo. That's why we retell it until every winter place of the human heart blooms and every tomb is a reminder not just of what was lost, but what is beyond loss forever. With all the versions of the story we tell across peoples and around the world, we are the ones who anchor here. We are the ones who are called to life with sleeves rolled up and hearts wagered. That is Easter. The poet Adrienne Rich once wrote, "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world." In a world that looks bent on being a Good Friday horror show, may we be charged to look around for signs of the other truth, for places where the rock has been rolled away. That is to say, for places where love is incarnate and moving like a verb between people who do not hoard anything that is better shared, which is pretty much everything. Where hope is muscular and unapologetic and has strategies and asks for discipleship. May we magnify those stories, so others see the Easter truth in the world and risk for it also. And sing Easter songs with ebullient descants of alleluias. Thank you, choir. And join the movement of people in all the places we find ourselves through all times who have, despite what the world dealt them, lived resurrection. As Lucy Larcombe, a poet, wrote in her A Woman's Easter poem, "Make us loving and steadfast and loyal to bear up humanity's hope. So may it be for us. May we be such a people, be a blessing and be blessed. Happy Easter, everyone." We're going to sing together our closing hymn. It's just one page after the opening hymn, hymn number 270, O Day of Light and Gladness. Please rise as you're able. I would invite you to remain standing and put down your hymnals, or if you're seated, remain seated, and let's join hands. So the web of those who are Easter people can feel each other's pulse and know its truth. And now, in our comings and our goings, may the light of love shine upon us. Out from within us, be gracious unto us, and grant us peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.